Hi, everyone. I am live today to talk about the executive order that just came out yesterday, June 22nd, 2020. And this order is effective June 24th, 2020. So there is a day in between, I guess, if somebody wants to travel today, or if someone's already scheduled to travel today. But it goes into so many different things that I want to take some time to break it down for all of you. I will start by saying that it is a very big deal because it actually goes through December 2020, the end of December. So all of this year will be covered by this executive order. It also, if some of you remember, there was an order in April 22nd, 2020 as well. And this order, the first thing that it does is that it actually extends that April order until the end of December as well. So not only does it cover the non-immigrants, but it actually also covers the green card holders that were covered by the previous order. Previous order was valid for 60 days. There was some discussion about possibly having it extended, and this order does extend it, and it goes now into through the end of 2020. There are provisions in here that it may be modified 30 days later or every 60 days thereafter, but we don't know what kind of modifications, if any, that they will have. Meanwhile, this is a very complex order because when you think about how it applies to people, it will apply to people in various ways. And it's actually kind of interesting that, with all the Black Lives Matter movements in the United States, it's very interesting that they kind of reference in this proclamation that this is going to somehow correct for some historically disadvantaged groups, including African Americans and other minorities without college degrees and Americans with disability. I'm not sure how it exactly will or will not, but that seems to be listed as one of the reasons or justifications for this order. Also, it goes into the specifics, right? So who is impacted? And many of you may have heard it really goes into 3 visa types: H's, L's, and J's. Those are the 3 visa types that it specifically talks about being impacted. Now, let's get some things out of the way. Anyone who is inside the United States is fine. No one who is inside the United States is impacted by this or by the previous order that was there in April. Also, anyone who has, a visa stamp on their passport is exempted. Even if that visa stamp is for a fresh H-1, that is not covered by this order and not prohibited by it. So those are some basic exceptions that it talks about not covering. Okay. Now, it limits or suspends entry into the United States for someone, first of all, who is outside the United States, who does not have yet a visa stamped on their passport, and who is applying for an H, an L, or a J visa type. Okay. Now, does that include dependents? Like, what about H4s? I've had a lot of people ask me, my H-1B spouse is already inside the United States. I am stuck outside because I was waiting for my visa stamp. Does this stop me from joining my spouse? And unfortunately, the language is a little bit unclear, so I can understand why this is a question that people have. But when you read it, it says an H-1B or H-2B visa and any alien accompanying or following to join such alien. So it basically eliminates even H-4 holders who are just following to join their H-1B spouse. That's a very bizarre thing because a lot of these H-4 holders do not have work authorizations and would not be in the workforce anyway, but it does somehow impact them as well. Okay. Another thing that it goes into is that it goes into, you know, the J's and the L dependents, same thing, right? They are also impacted by this. They have to have been outside the United States. They do not have, like, if they do not have any other travel documentation, such as a transportation letter or boarding foil or advanced parole, then this applies to them. It does not apply to any lawful permanent residents who are green card holders. But for people who are waiting for their green card interviews, it does apply, right? For people who are waiting for their green card interviews, it does apply. If they were impacted by the previous proclamation in April, because that proclamation has been extended. So it does apply for those. And also it goes into some other exceptions, such as people who are spouses or children of US citizens. And you saw that same exception applied in April. So spouses and children of US citizens are exempted. And green card holders, like I said, are exempted. And it also exempts people who are coming in for what they consider to be for the public benefit. So people who are providing some necessary services for COVID relief, people who are, you know, otherwise somehow discretionarily benefiting the United States, and there is a broad provision as to whom it may apply. So, you know, anyone who's determined to be a benefit to the United States, essentially, if they can classify in some of those listed criteria, those are exempted individuals. So what does this really mean for the people who are waiting? Unfortunately, some of it is definitely bad news. It means that you're going to be waiting a lot longer in many cases, but there may be some few steps that can be taken, right? So first of all, notice that there are certain visa types that are commonly used that are not included. And one of those visa types is B2. B2 is a visitor visa, right? Now, given that the consulate around the country, around the world, are closed in most cases, getting a new B2 visa may be challenging. However, for someone who has a B2 visa and is able to get on a flight, because right now there are limited flights as well, who's able to get on a flight to the United States, may be able to explain that they need to temporarily come to the United States to reunite with their family or whatever the situation is. So that's one thing. Another visa type that's not impacted are F visas, right? F visas are student visas. Student visas are going to be exempted because that's not on the list of visa holders who are not allowed to enter. So once the flight situation eases up and you're able to travel to the United States, if you have admission in a university in the United States, and possibly if you have a reason to come here, like if your university is holding in-person classes, then that is something that you can do, is you can enter on your F visa. Another visa that's not being impacted are O visas. Now, what are O visas, you may ask? O visas are visas that are for persons of extraordinary ability. And a large number of H-1B holders don't know that they actually qualify for the O visas. So if you have extraordinary abilities, if you have, excuse me, if you have awards that you've won, if you are being paid a high salary, if you've received recognition, written papers, then you may be eligible for an O visa. And this is a time to strongly consider that, because it is not one of the visas that is being impacted by all of these different executive orders. Okay. Now, I am seeing that there are some questions that are coming in. Unfortunately, people who are waiting for their interviews are going to be impacted. And Diversity Visa 2020, the winners will have to wait for their, visa stamps as well, because they're not they are impacted through the first April order, and that order has been extended through the end of December. Okay. Now, people who are applying for green card through marriage, they're not going to be impacted through this order. Now, someone is asking me about, Dheeraj is asking me about working. That's not something that's covered by the executive order, but you can definitely call me, and I'm happy to get those questions answered as well. Okay, but right now I just wanted to kind of focus on the specific situation at hand connected with this executive order. Okay. Yes. So, I recognize your pain, Ali, and it is the pain that's shared by many of our clients and followers as well. And what I see are a large number of people whose families are split, a large number of people whose goals and aspirations are delayed, people who are in a situation where they might be running out of visa time on the one hand, but afraid to leave because they can't get stamped on the other hand. So this is not a small problem. It is a pretty big problem. Oh, F2A. Someone asked me, is F2A not a part of the order? The F2A is actually a part of it because it was a part of the April order, and the April order has been extended through December 2020, like the end of December. So, so this is a combination, right? Because there was an executive order that was valid for 60 days that came down in April. And that order has been extended through the end of December with this. And they're adding non-immigrant visas to it as well. So it is a pretty big deal. And, I don't think anyone is going to lose your interviews. I think it is going to be delayed. Okay. So that's what I believe. But again, we are going to keep an eye out on how these orders are being implemented, and whether they will be challenged. There's a high likelihood that there will be a challenge to these orders, as to whether it is necessary to have it be this extensive to accomplish the goals that it's seeking to accomplish. We don't know. Okay. And then the other thing that is important to know is that you really do have to keep in mind that there will be a review of this order in 30 days. There will be another review of this order in 60 days thereafter, and every 60 days, right? So there may be changes. There may be changes that come from these reviews. I don't know what those changes are, but as and when we get these changes, we will let you know. Okay. And what I prefer to do is I prefer to take a little bit of time just to fully understand what these orders are, because, otherwise what happens is that you have so many experts giving you the update on these orders without fully digesting what it represents or what it means and whom does it impact. And I don't want to be one of those. So whenever you see a new update, you will hear from me, but you will hear from me once that update has been fully kind of expanded, so that I can, relay those messages to you and hopefully answer some of your questions as well. But in the meantime, I am going to check out. Please give us a call, 312-854-7065. If you have any questions at all, feel free to call us, and we will, be scheduling consultations on an available basis. Our consultations do book up very fast, so keep that in mind. And I wish you all the very best given these extreme circumstances. All right. Thank you so much, and have a good day or evening, depending on where you are.